When going through your fitness journey, you're going to want to have a set of rules that you follow to optimally achieve your goals. Now, these are my 10 rules that have made me jacked. So let's get on to it. The first rule is to always stay in the range of 2 reps shy of failure to absolute failure. Now, the reason we want to do this is because this is an intensity-based rule. If you don't have enough intensity in your workouts, then you're really just not going to tear enough muscle fibers and have them be able to grow back bigger and stronger. So say you can do 15 reps, but you only choose to do 8, you're not going to be training hard enough. So you won't tear enough muscle fibers to allow them to grow back bigger and stronger. And you're not going to achieve optimal results to your goals. So why would you do it? But the reason we don't want to train to absolute failure every set is because it can be very fatiguing and it can make you tired and you won't be able to perform the best for the rest of your workout. You won't be able to lift as heavy. Okay, but on to the second rule. We want to stay in the rep range of about 10 to 20 reps in an exercise. So say the exercise is a lat pull down, right? You know a lat pull down, you go like this. In the lat pull down, the reason we're going to want to stay in this range is because if we choose a weight where we can only do 5 reps, that's going to be more strength oriented because we're not going to have enough time and enough tension to actually tear those muscle fibers properly for optimal muscle growth. And we don't want to pick a weight which we can do too many reps for, right? We don't want to pick a weight which we can go over 20 reps because then we're just training for muscular endurance. We're not training to get bigger and stronger and to be able to improve on our fitness goals. Because I'm guessing your goal is muscular endurance, bro. You clicked on this video to get bigger. So anyways, but the second rule doesn't really apply if you're not following this third rule. This third rule is to perform 14 to 20 sets per muscle group per week. Now, the reason we want to do this is a volume-based rule, right? So if we're not doing enough sets, we're not getting enough sets in the week, there's not going to be enough days where we're training, right? We'll be resting too much, not doing enough exercise, and we won't be able to tear as many muscle fibers, and we won't be able to grow back bigger and stronger, you know? But I would not go above 20, because above 20, it's known as junk volume, right? Junk volume is where you're doing a bunch of volume in your workout, but it's not really serving you at all. It's not helping you achieve that goal of getting bigger. And I wouldn't go under 14, because under 14, you're just not doing enough volume, bro. You're not training enough, bro. So when you don't train enough, not tearing as many muscle fibers, you're not properly achieving muscle protein synthesis. And you can argue with me on this, whatever. You can follow Mike Mentzer's training program, Dorian Yates' training program. You can see how that goes for you. But this has brought me the best results, the best gains. So that was my third rule. My fourth rule is to only utilize exercises which provide lots of tension and a good contraction on the muscle that you're trying to grow. So say an exercise like the dumbbell kickback, you can look it up if you want. The dumbbell kickback, there's not good tension. There's only tension at the top of the movement. At the bottom of the movement, you're just hanging there. There's no tension on the tricep, which is what you're trying to grow. So why would you do it? Because the contraction is not good enough. There's not enough tension. It's not going to tear enough muscle fibers. You're not going to achieve good results from doing it. So don't do it. And do your research to see what the best exercises are to achieve the most tension and the best contraction. Exercises I like the dumbbell bench press, because at that bottom you have a very good contraction on the pectorals, which will provide lots of tear, and then they can grow bigger and stronger. On to the fifth rule. Consume 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Your body weight, not someone else's. The reason you want to do this is because there's a phenomenon known as muscle protein synthesis. This is where your muscles utilize protein to help them grow back bigger and stronger. And if you're not consuming enough protein, then muscle protein synthesis isn't going to be activated, and you're not going to grow, bro. You're not going to get strong. You're not going to get big. But if you're using too much protein, you have too much of a protein diet, then you're probably eating too many calories anyway. It's not going to serve you well. It's just like junk volume. It's junk protein, basically. All right, on to my next rule, which is if you are an intermediate to advanced lifter, to maximize muscle growth, you must utilize techniques such as drop sets and supersets. Now, these techniques will provide the best muscle growth to you. Don't do them always, obviously. Like I said, train 2 reps shy of failure to absolute failure, but you can go past absolute failure, which is where you lower the weight, you continue the tension, and you keep going as hard as you possibly can until failure again. But the reason we only want to do this if we're an intermediate and an advanced lifter is because when you're a newbie lifter, a beginner lifter, your muscles aren't conditioned to have this much tension, this much tear, and they're not going to grow back properly. You'll probably be very sore. Just like, so say the first time you ever did a leg day and you went super hard, right? Or maybe you didn't, maybe you're a pussy. But if you went super hard, then you're going to be extremely sore afterwards. But as you keep doing leg days for months and months and months, you realize that you won't be as sore as the first time. This is because your muscles are conditioned to that intensity and that amount of reps. And it's the same with training techniques such as drop sets and supersets. So definitely look into those more if you're an intermediate to advanced lifter. But if you're a newbie lifter, stick to the basic principles. Now, my second rule is to control the negative portion of your reps. Now, new research has shown that the negative portion of a rep, which is not, let me have an example. If you're doing a dumbbell bench press and you're pushing up, you want to control the down, because that is actually when the most tear on the muscle is being activated. If you're only controlling the up and then just dropping down, you're losing gains because you're not having the most tension and the most tear as you possibly can. Just like you'd be losing gains if you're not following all the other rules, man. And onto the 8th rule. You're going to want to train each and every head of a muscle. So I actually didn't know this when I first started off. I thought you could just do one exercise for each muscle group, whatever. Do the optimal amount of sets for that and you get amazing gains. No, you won't. Because you're only having tension on the one head of the muscle. If you're doing a skull crusher, you're only getting tension on the long head of the tricep. But if you're doing a JM press, you're also getting tension on the medial and lateral head of the tricep. But if you're only doing the skull crusher, only doing the JM press, you're going to avoid the heads. And your physique isn't going to look good, dude, because you're only developing one head of the muscle. So when you're training, make sure you do your research and exercises, find out which exercises target which heads, and follow that advice and use it in your training. Because if you don't, then you're only going to build certain heads of the muscle. So the muscles aren't going to look correct. If you see your favorite bodybuilder, like they'll have that horseshoe look in their tricep, and you might be wondering why you don't. It's because you're not training all 3 heads of the tricep. Or same with the delt. If you're only doing lateral raises, you're not going to develop the front head and the rear head of the delt. You're only going to develop the lateral head, the side head, which is just stupid. Because why would you be avoiding gains just to only use one exercise? Just do more exercises, bro. But obviously, like I've said, don't do too many sets per week. So I like to do about 14 sets per week. So if I train a muscle group 2 times per week, I'll do 7 sets each day. Or I can do 6, 12, whatever. But 7 is better for muscle growth. You can do 8, 9, but I would not go past 10, like I've said, because of our belief in how the research has shown what types of sets you do per week, how many sets you do per week, what exercises you use, how many sets you do, the quantity of sets, the quality of sets. All these things are affecting your muscle growth. But if you're only doing that on one head of the muscle, you're not going to look good. So do the research. That if you didn't know, the chest has like 2 heads, but bodybuilders consider 3 heads: middle, upper, and lower. I think there's really only 2, but I would follow a training program that trains all 3. Say for your back, you have your upper lats, lower lats, your upper traps, lower traps, and there's plenty of other ones too. I'm not that much of a nerd where I know every single head of every single muscle. But say in your calves, I don't know the names of that, bro. I sound stupid right now, but there's certain exercises you can do to train each head. If you do a seated calf raise, that's going to train one part of the calf, and if you do a standing calf raise, it's going to train another part of the calf. But if you're only doing this standing calf raise, your calves aren't going to look good. I mean, I'm completely biased because I have terrible calf genetics, but I do skip calves a lot, to be honest, and I'm trying to improve that. I'm having some humility in that to continue training calves. But like I said, if you're only training one head, your calves aren't going to look proper. They're not going to look good, and that applies to any muscle group. Now, on to our 9th rule. You must warm up and stretch muscles before you train them on your heavier sets. This is for the best force exertion possible. Because if your max, like your max bench press is 185, and you're doing 135 for reps, you're not going to start off with 135, dude. You're going to start off with a bar, and then maybe you'll do 95, and maybe you just work your way up to 135 for that top set where you're doing the heaviest weight. But if you jump straight in to the heaviest weight you're going to use in that workout, number one, it increases your risk of injury. Like, it skyrockets your increase of injury because you haven't warmed up any of the muscles. You know, they're not conditions. They are since the last workout, but your muscles don't know the workout's coming. They gotta warm up. They gotta ease in, So I would start off with a bar, then maybe do 95. This is obviously just an example, but for however much weight you like to use, you must stretch out the muscles to prevent injury and maximize force exertion. Okay? That's a rule you must follow. That is a must rule. Okay, on to the rule number 10. You must utilize the correct form for an exercise to properly target the muscle that you are trying to grow. So, if I'm doing a squat, but my legs are too wide, then I'm going to be using my hip flexors to do the squat. If I'm doing a squat with super wide legs, you can't really see. If I'm doing a squat with super, super wide legs, I'm going to be using my hip flexors to do the squat. If I do it with a closer leg stance and then go for a squat, I'm using my quads. And when you do a squat, you're most likely trying to grow your quads, not strengthen your hip flexors, bro. So that's just one example, but I would definitely do in-depth research to see what the correct form for an exercise that you're trying is and follow that form correctly. Make sure you actually do research. Don't just watch some stupid TikTok video. You shouldn't have TikTok in the first place. But don't just watch some stupid TikTok video to see how to properly do an exercise. Actually use a trustable source, because people could be lying to you. I don't know why. Maybe they're trying to sell you something. Maybe they're trying to be different. But make sure you're using the correct form on the exercises, which also will minimize the risk for injury and properly target the muscle that you're trying to grow. Now, those were my 10 rules that made me jacked. Thank you for watching. I love you, bro. Don't become wasted potential. Mwah.